to Scrollin', a podcast about the Elder Scrolls Online. I'm Ket.
I'm Davius.
This is episode number 47. Well, I guess let's get started. I want to start with just a quick kind of IRL update. So over the last few episodes, I've been talking a lot about how my life has been sort of in transition, a positive transition, but big changes. You know, I started a whole new job. I relocated. I just bought a house for the first time, which is a big thing for me. And so there's just a lot of stuff that's been taking my attention and energy. And as I said, I think on just the last episode, we're going to be pulling back, doing a lot less episodes and that sort of thing. So you may have noticed it's been quite a while since the last episode. But now I think the most tumultuous part of this transition is behind me. I'm actually living in this house now. I've been on this job for a while. I kind of sort of know what I'm doing. I kind of feel like this is my life now, you know. So I'm going to be starting to settle back into my usual routines. I'm already playing a ton of ESO the last couple of weeks. I'm really enjoying this patch. I think you can expect to see some more consistency with the Scrollin' podcast here. I'm still not going to make any promises on a set release schedule, but it'll probably be, at least once every 2 or 3 weeks, I would say. But don't hold me to it. I can still do what I want. But
enough of this real life housing. It's back to ESO housing. That's what needs to happen here.
Yeah, exactly. My interior decorator has been banging on my door.
We need some items. They're a little delayed. Don't know what's going on.
I don't have enough bushes or whatever. So, in the past, normally we would do, like, as soon as a DLC or as soon as a patch would drop, we're doing an episode like that week. We got to talk about it. But now it's been, 2 or 3 weeks since this patch is released. So, I don't think we need to hash all the details and everything that we've already talked about on PTS. All the people listening to this have had plenty of time to experience the stuff for themselves and know what it's all about. So I think we can kind of gloss through a lot of this stuff, but I still have lots and lots of thoughts to share.
Oh, yeah.
So number one, of course, we got a couple of new dungeons. I haven't done either one of them yet, but Davius, you did some runs, right? What's your thoughts there?
I did the Cauldron. I did some runs there to farm a set, and it's pretty good. It's a fun set. It's a fun dungeon, and the bosses are pretty cool. I will say that I feel like design-wise, they were a little bit back to kind of the usual, which isn't a bad thing, but I remember when the Dark Heart of Skyrim, we talked about those dungeons and just how like vast and detailed they were.
Yeah,
and, like
labyrinthine.
These are much more back to kind of a similar, I think it was like it's in a cave or an old ruin. It kind of looked more like the classic dungeon, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I was slightly bummed that it wasn't that level of detail again. But it was a lot of fun. I really liked some of the boss fights. The final boss in the Cauldron is a cool one. I haven't done the other one yet, but I need to. I'm planning on getting some pieces out of there. But overall, it was good. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Nice. I haven't done either one yet, just because there are a few of these sets that I kind of would like to have, but nothing. There's not any builds that I'm like dying to put together right now that require these sets. So I haven't had that impetus to go do them yet. But the name of that set that you were farming is this new one, Dagon's Dominion. I just wanted to kind of go through like a few of the more notable sets that came out this patch. Dagon's Dominion is the one that you were farming for your StamPlar, correct?
That is correct.
Basically who it's made for. It's made for StamPlars.
That's what it's made for.
Medium armor set. The 5-piece bonus gives you 492 weapon damage to your area of effect abilities. Damage and healing abilities. And we're going to hear about Davius' StamPlar a little bit later, but I'm super excited about Davius' StamPlar. Probably more excited than you are, Davius. Like I'm like super jazzed about.
It might be true. It's the true partner in crime for Betsy, and yeah, it might be a little true. Your excitement level might be. It's the most excited you've ever been for one of my characters. I think that's safe to say.
Yeah. And we've just been having a lot of fun with those characters together. We'll talk about it more a little while later. Dagon's Dominion, if you have a StamPlar, you can't go wrong with that one. Kinross's Wrath is another medium armor set. The 5-piece bonus, that's the one that your light and heavy attacks give you these stacks, and then when you have 5 stacks, you give yourself Major Berserk and your nearby allies Minor Berserk. So that's a really cool, like, stamina support, yet still offensive set there. Really cool idea. I like that.
Very cool idea.
And then Drake's Rush was the only other one I wanted to mention. A heavy armor set, the 5-piece bonus. When you bash an enemy, you and up to 3 group members within 15 meters gain Major Heroism. That's the ulti-gen buff.
Oh, yeah.
For 12 seconds, 18-second cooldown. Davis, you already have plans for this one, right?
Oh, yeah. I've already got plans in place. I will use this set. Nothing's finalized yet, but the one finalized thing I can say, this set will be used by me.
An ulti-gen support set. I mean,
that's right.
Yeah, Davis's name written all over it.
Just love the idea of it. And just, man, giving an entire group Major Heroism that easily, too. Very easy to do.
Yeah, just bash someone.
Yeah.
Boom.
Man, just awesome.
Bash like a sorcerer's pet or something.
Yeah, doesn't even matter. Just go around bashing things.
You're thinking of putting that on a MagDen, is that right?
That's right. So my idea is this set on a MagDen with the name of the set's slipping my mind, but there's a set that drops that increases all major buffs for you and your allies.
Oh yeah, it's one of the Somerset sets. I can't remember the name, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But increases all major buffs, but for you and your allies by 40%, which would bump this up to about a 16-second buff, 17-second buff on an 18-second cooldown. So
yeah.
Pretty much just your group's just got Major Heroism.
Yeah,
permanently.
Perfect. And that's really cool. And Wardens typically will use Shimmering Shield to give themselves Major Heroism, but that'll give you the option to just use the other morph. You already have Major Heroism.
Yep.
The other morph is really good, but it's just so hard to pass up Major Heroism that's just the one everyone uses. But it'll be nice to actually be able to use that.
Yep, you're exactly right. That other morph is great. It's the one that basically, as you absorb the projectiles, instead of giving yourself Major Heroism for every projectile, you actually return damage back to the person who's hitting you, and it's quite a bit of damage. It adds up. It's
a decent amount of damage. It has a 0.5 second cooldown, so it catches their light attack weaves and the actual projectiles that they're casting, so it bounces both of those back, so it can really add up to a lot of damage for sure. So I'm looking forward. I've been wanting you to make a MagDen for a long time because I know you're going to love it. There's such a fun class to play. I'm looking forward to that. Another cool thing, I don't know if we mentioned this during PTS or not, but there's a new antiquity. There's a Western Skyrim antique map. So it's like a housing item. I mean, the item itself is whatever. It's probably pretty cool, but I just think it's neat that we're still getting new antiquities. We're like, this is the following year, after this system was released. I was kind of expecting, like, once 2020 is over, once that Skyrim year is over, that's the end of getting new antiquities. But it looks like they may continue to add to this on and on into the future. I think that's really neat.
Yeah, pretty cool that it's continuing over, and that it looks like it's going to stick around for the foreseeable future for sure.
Yeah, and I like having this antiquity system in the game. I haven't engaged with that system nearly as much as I was when it first came out, of course, especially now that I have the mythic items that I want, and now we have this system where I can just make new mythic items with 25 transmute crystals, But once in a while, I do get a cool lead for a neat housing item or some random thing, and I go out and I check it out, and kind of like we talked about when this system was first released, it is really neat that it sends you out onto the map to these areas that you probably wouldn't visit otherwise. And they're very thoughtful about where they place these things. They're giving you like these cool vistas to look at and stuff while you're there. I know this is all stuff we've said before, but I just wanted to revisit that. Antiquities is really cool. We're still getting more antiquities. We're still finding new ways to squeeze more juice out of this content that has been in the game for a long time. I think it's cool.
Yeah. I think it's kind of fit in perfectly for exactly what I would want it to be. Just like you said, is that every now and then I'll get this really cool lead by doing something random or something completely different. And it's just kind of this extra little layer where when I have some time or I'm just killing some time, I'll pull up my leads and say, all right, I'm going to go ahead and farm that one. And it's just enough to where it's just kind of one little extra thing to do, but it's still worth doing. It's still a lot of fun to do as well.
Yeah, it's perfect. And I feel like it really has become what they want it to be, kind of like this semi-idle thing where, like, I want to be logged into the game. I want to be like talking to people in guild chat, but I don't necessarily want like the high energy of PvP or whatever. And so what I do most of the time is I'll just kind of hoard up these leads as I get them. And then when I'm in a mood like that, then I'll just go bust out those antiquities, just talking guild chat, talking Discord with people, hang out, listen to music, dig some stuff up out of the ground. It's fun. I like it. We already talked all about the champion point system. Not much changed there. I think they may have adjusted a few numbers here and there. The one big change that they did make since PTS was that that thing where new characters start with 20 weapon and spell damage, and then you gain 20 at each level up to level 50, where it caps out at 1,000. They changed that. You now just start with 1,000 weapon and spell damage at level 1, which is kind of crazy when you think of the new player experience. Like, just coming right out of the gate. It's going to be a lot different from when you and I were just starting.
Can you imagine what under 50 battlegrounds are like?
Oh, yeah. It's wild to be like level 1 and you just automatically have all this weapon and spell damage. It's pretty funny, I think. Overall, I've been pretty impressed with the champion point system. I've been enjoying it quite a bit. Now, granted, I haven't engaged in hardly any CP PvP. I've done a little bit of Imperial City, but not a lot. But I've done quite a bit of PvE, and it feels pretty good to me, honestly.
Yeah. I think my favorite part is just kind of having a better understanding of, I mean, this is kind of silly, but just having a better understanding of what my stats will be without CP.
Yeah.
Kind of understanding my stats better without having to think, all right, I got to go to a no CP area to see what it's going to be like.
It is a little more clear to see like what you're getting from CP and what you're not. And what I said on one of our last episodes, that my favorite thing about this CP overhaul is the effects that it has had on non-CP game modes, because they've made all these adjustments to your base character to kind of compensate for a lot of these changes, and they're really smart changes. Those base character changes, I think they've done a really, really great job of kind of rounding out the rough edges and making your character at its base so much more capable than they were before. And it's had a great effect on the non-CP PvP meta, which we're going to get into here just a little bit.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of this champion point system, and it seems like, I'm not really seeing a ton of complaints like in guild chats or in forums and stuff like that. Like, I've seen some people say like, I kind of wish this was maybe more this way or that way or whatever. But, in general, with big changes like this, you typically see like, people tearing the walls down, no matter how good it is, like people just don't like change. And I've been pretty surprised at how mild the response has been, which I think is probably a good sign.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, it overall, you would just kind of based on what you said, it's gotten, people are really happy with it, seemingly. There's not, because I'm the same way. I haven't heard really any complaints. So I think it's gone over well.
Yeah. We talked all about the armor changes in the past. We got the new penalties and bonuses. There's no more 5-piece requirements, so there's just a lot more build diversity and stuff like that that's possible. I've already seen some people in guild chat say that they're experimenting with like 4-3 setups and stuff, so that's already out there. I haven't made any significant changes, or actually I haven't made any changes at all to my characters as far as like what weights they're wearing. My characters more or less are still working pretty well, so I haven't made any drastic changes. But some people are. It's out there. Have you done anything, any experimenting in that regard?
I've actually been really surprised on how little to no changes I have made. I really thought that I was going to like make, tinker and make changes, and I was like, all right, here comes these changes. And just like you said, I've kind of just, when it went live, I was kind of just tested it out and things felt pretty good, and they've continued to feel pretty good. And so I've kind of just come around where it's like, well, maybe I won't really make any changes.
It is really interesting for how much things were changed, yeah, like my builds pretty much feel really good as they are without making any changes. Like I've adjusted some attribute points and I've changed a glyph or two here and there, but the build, the play style, all that stuff still works. So yeah, it's really cool. But those possibilities are there. I like the fact that those possibilities are there. Maybe in the future I'll do some weird 4-3 or 4-2-1 or some kind of setup like that. But right now I haven't really found the need for it.
I think the part that I might be most excited about is just the lazy part of me, where it's going to be easier than ever now to get the three different types of armor, so I can get the Undaunted passives.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna be true. I don't have to worry about getting like a monster set in a certain thing. If I don't have the monster, it's just gonna be like, all right, I can swap this out. Or if it's a craftable set, I'll just go craft.
It's kind of like you'll get pros and cons no matter what.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. As far as like ability changes, we've already talked about most of them, except one that they surprised us with was Mist Form, and I am pumped about this.
What a great surprise.
Wonderful surprise. It's been nerfed. Spoiler, it was nerfed pretty considerably. So Mist Form now disables your health, magicka, and stamina recoveries while channeling, rather than just your magicka recovery. So a pretty popular thing has been for a while for people to use Mist Form to stack health recovery as high as they can get it. And you can get it pretty darn high these days. And then use a bunch of proc sets, right? And get those procs going. Just hang out in Mist Form. You can barely scratch them. And then those procs like Zon and Vatistrand Staff and all that stuff is just melting you down while you can't do anything to them. And they can stay in that form for a really, really, really long time, a surprisingly long time. It is infuriating. I hate it. I hate Mist Form.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So I'm glad that it's been nerfed. I don't think they nerfed it too hard. I'm still seeing people use it, and they're using it, in my opinion, the way that it's supposed to be used. It's a quick little get out of jail free card for a few seconds, but you can't just live there. So I like it. Yeah, I think this is a great change. There was a dev comment. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it basically just distills into them saying it was OP, so they nerfed it. Right?
That sums it up right there. That's all anybody needs to know.
Yeah, it was just too powerful, and again, just maddening. I really, it's one of those abilities where I used to use it. There was a time when I would use it, but it's gotten to a point where now that we have this sort of proc meta and the ability to stack our health recovery so high, it's had an effect on this specific ability that just makes me not even want to touch it at all. It's too cheesy, and I don't really even mind having cheesy builds. I have some cheesy builds, but this ability is just too much.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because we joked about that. Well, how bad vampires are now. We're like, well, they have Mist Form, which is really good, but it's annoying. And then we just got to a point where we're like, you know what? We don't even care. We do feel bad for vampires, but Mist Form is it's worse than our hope that vampires can be something. So
yeah, it's like a point of pride. I will not use Mist Form. Which I've cured all my vampires anyway. So
yeah.
The werewolf nerf we already talked about. They have less sustain, less resistance. They still have just as much damage potential as they've ever had, right? So I think that's important to remember if you're a werewolf fan. They haven't lost any damage other than you might want to invest more into resistance and sustain and thus less damage. But you still, if you just want to go for maximum damage, you can still reach the same heights you could before. I think this is an interesting conversation here. Davis, how many werewolves have you been seeing in Battlegrounds since this patch dropped? I'm just curious.
It's interesting. It's almost like you could do like a countdown from when the patch dropped to now. It's like slowly counting down to when the patch first dropped. It's like you saw all the regular werewolves, and it's like a couple days went by, and it's a little bit less, then a little bit less, a little bit less to here recently. I don't know when the last time I saw one was.
Yeah, I don't see them like at all. This last week or so, especially. Yeah, you're totally right. Like I haven't seen a single one. I don't necessarily think that means that werewolves were nerfed too heavily. I think I suspect that werewolves are actually balanced now, or are pretty close to it. And the people that have been playing werewolves have just kind of been spoiled to being overpowered, and now that they're balanced, I don't know. I think it's just kind of an easy reason to say, okay, let's take a break from werewolf, maybe play with some other builds for a little while. We had our fun. I haven't seen a single complaint, I'll tell you that. Not in guild chat, not in forums, not anywhere. It's just like, seems fair. We had our fun. I suspect after a little more time passes, maybe another month or two, people will circle back around, go back to their werewolves and find that they're actually still super strong and totally capable. And we'll start seeing them in the mix a bit more. I think we've just seen some people, they've had their fill. Like werewolves have been so overpowered for so long, so they've just been maining that build for so long. Now is a good time to take a break and check out some other builds. That's what I think's going on here.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And 100% agree with the circling back. I think when people come back to it, they'll realize that, werewolves, I think, are at a good balance level. Because while they did get all these nerfs, these stat bonuses that we've got are great for werewolves and great for the damage of what they are. And I think most people, I say that lightly, but would agree that werewolves should not be this tanky, endless healing thing that they've been. That the idea of the werewolf should be massive damage, but almost squishy because they're speedy and they have they can do these things. And I think that's exactly what they've become. They hit really hard, but if they attract a lot of attention, and if you start hitting them, you can take them down much easier than what they've been.
It's been quite a roller coaster for werewolves, like over the last couple of years, they've been up and down and up and down and up and down. And I like it when they're viable. I think it's like the meta is more fun when werewolves are in the mix there.
Yep.
They've been overpowered, but it seems like they have a real hard time. It seems like the devs have a really hard time getting them actually well balanced, because they're either overpowered or they're terrible. It's like It's one or the other, it seems like. But maybe this is it. Like I said, I think people are going to circle back around in a little bit and are going to find that they're actually maybe in a pretty decent spot. That's werewolves. Another thing I want to mention, Major Gallop at all times. Pretty sweet, right?
It's amazing. Love it.
It's got to be top 5 features of this patch that are like, one of the best things for sure. I still haven't broken the habit of using this non-existent add-on now. So we've been using this add-on called Rapid Ride Assist on PC for a long time, and it's a great add-on. I'm going to miss it. What it does is when you mount, it slots rapids for you, and then you cast it, and then it unslots it and puts the old skill back in its place. And so it's just muscle memory from years of using this add-on. I mount up, hit number 5 to cast rapids, except now I'm just casting some random ability that makes me dismount.
Yep.
And I'm like,
kicks you right off your mount.
Face palm, mount back up, and just don't push anything. Just ride forward.
What makes me feel better is that I've been looking around and I'm seeing. I don't know if you've done this, but I'm seeing in like the big major cities. I'll look around and I'll see people jump on a mount, and then I'll see them take a step, and then I see them cast an ability and fly off of it. And I'm like, I know what you're doing there, man. I'm right there with you.
It's so hard to break
what happens.
It's been how long since the patch? I'm talking. It's probably like almost a 100% rate for me that I'm clicking that button when I don't need to.
Oh yeah.
Luckily, some characters, that slot happens to be something that requires a target, so it doesn't actually fire, and then, so I'm off the hook on that one. But I like the change. As soon as that muscle memory is broken, it's going to be a great change, I think. But of course, we can't mention the Major Gallop change without mentioning poor rapid maneuvers. So I know we already talked about it. We just got to talk about it again. So, of course, Rapid Maneuvers no longer grants Major Gallop because you already have Major Gallop at all times, right? But don't worry, guys. They compensated you. They reduced the cost of Rapid Maneuvers to only 6,426 stamina instead of the unreasonable 6,885 stamina. So 400 stamina difference. for taking away the only thing that you used this ability for. You don't need the major expedition. Everyone already has major expedition. Okay,
I want to see a chart that is like top 5 least used skills in ESO, and this has got to be top 3 now, right?
Gotta be. I mean, I could maybe see a really highly coordinated Cyrodiil group. If you want one person that's giving everyone major expedition, I guess, but
what are they casting?
Seems like a
3 times and then they're just done. I mean, it's such a ridiculous cost.
Yeah, it's hilarious that like they even went through the trouble of reducing the cost, and then it's 400 difference. It's still over 6,000 stamina. Anyway, I have to imagine that that's on a dry erase board somewhere in somebody's office. Make rapid maneuvers usable at some point in the future. Like they have to be well aware that that's not right.
That's
right
awful.
there. But it's just not a priority right now.
Oh gosh.
But anyway, I mean, that's just funny. We're not really losing anything. We have major gallop. It's a better situation, really. It's just funny for rapid maneuvers. And there's a few miscellaneous things I wanted to mention here. You can preview new things in your inventory now, like pieces of furniture, furnishing blueprints, style pages, and motifs. You can preview what those look like on your character before consuming them, because maybe you look at it and you decide you don't like it, so you want to sell those pages instead rather than learn them. And you can even, it seems kind of irrelevant now, but you can even preview pieces of gear on your character as well, without actually equipping it. So if you want to see what that sword looks like, you don't actually have to equip that and unequip your real sword and all that stuff. You can just see what it looks like. Kind of cool. It's weird though, since we have transmog now, most people, you're not actually seeing those gear pieces. Yeah. So I don't know what the point of that is, but you can do it.
I just love this change just for the style pages and motifs, to actually be able to see them now. And it's like, all right, I can decide if I actually want this or not want this.
Totally.
Great change.
Very good change. Davis, you're the one that pointed this out to me, and ever since I have noticed, and it really is an amazing quality of life change. So the inventory, it saves your place whenever you switch to different menus and stuff. So like if you go to the consumables tab and then you go to another menu and come back to your inventory, it's still on your consumables tab. And furthermore, if you type in a search query, it keeps the search typed in for you as well. It's a minor thing, but man, it really makes
such a difference.
Those you spend so much time in your inventory in this game, like just swapping from menu to menu and doing different things. It really goes a long way to just smooth that out and make the whole experience just more pleasant, more enjoyable. It's really, really nice.
As someone that does a lot of BGs and gets a lot of the rewards for the worthy, this is so great, opening those, and every time I open one, not being shoved back to my all inventory.
Have to search
having
for
to go back
reward
to the tab.
again. Yeah.
Love it. So simple, but it's such a nice change.
Yeah, well, that's kind of, I think, sort of the expectations they've set for us for this year, is it's going to be, they're going to be really focused on quality of life and that sort of stuff. And that's a great example. It's a little thing. I assume it probably wasn't that difficult. It didn't take that many man hours to do that, but it's a little thing that goes a long way in just increasing my enjoyment of playing this game day to day.
Yep. Another one I'll throw in there too is the new mail system. Pretty simple, pretty cool. But it's pretty great. I like it a lot. It works out really well.
I do like the new mail system, separating it from player versus system mail. I like that. It is cool. So some good quality of life stuff. Let's talk just a little bit about Cyrodiil. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but we're still doing this proc set test in Cyrodiil, where proc sets are disabled in Cyrodiil, and it's going to remain the case until the next update, until update 30, that's going to be the big expansion that we're going to get this summer sometime. And then on update 30, they're going to re-enable proc sets, and they're also going to have a planned proc set rework, they say. And we're going to have details on that later. No details right now, but proc sets are getting reworked next patch, apparently, in one way or another. So that's really interesting.
Yeah,
And
it's a pretty wild thought just to even see that in text.
Yeah, like just proc sets, like just the umbrella term, all proc sets, you know. And then in update 31, so that's Q3, the dungeon DLC, they say that they plan to add more flexibility and customizable campaign rule sets as it relates to item sets. That wording seems outrageous to me.
Seems
customizable
wild.
Campaign rule sets? Like,
yeah, it seems wild.
Customizable. Like, that seems to me like you can pick and choose like the things that you want as an individual player, you know? Like, surely there's not enough population to support that sort of thing. I'm really, really curious to see exactly what they mean by that, because surely it's not what I'm thinking.
It makes me think, and I hope I'm wrong on this, but it makes me think that they're one of their ideas on how to fix Cyrodiil is just to divvy up the population into a whole bunch of different Cyrodiils.
Yeah.
And while that probably would fix it, I don't want to be in the massive Cyrodiil and there be like 40 other people in there. Like, you'll never find them.
Yeah, I'm curious, like, because like right now we have CP and non-CP and then below 50. So that's already 3 different divisions we have. And then we're going to have with proc sets, without proc sets for each one of those as well. I mean, they haven't said any of that. I'm just, I'm just surmising. They're smart. I'm sure they know exactly what they're doing. I'm just really curious to see what it is. It's hard for me to imagine.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued to see what they mean by that. That's kind of a wild idea.
It is. Man, I always say that I need to get into Cyrodiil and just spend more time there. People are saying, the people that spend a lot of time in Cyrodiil are loving this test right now. This proc set's disabled. I'm hearing very, very good things from people that spend a lot of their time in Cyrodiil. They're loving it. It is a skill wins environment, like 100% skill wins, which sounds really cool to me. So speaking of PvP, let's talk about our mode of PvP, the one that we spend our time doing, Battlegrounds. Davius, how have the BGs been going, man?
I have to quote, I was in, we're in a BG guild that is one of the top ones. I have to say it's probably one of the top ones out there. And I don't even remember who said it, but there was a line in it, and they said that, and I 100% wholeheartedly agree with it. It like summed everything up for me, that overall BGs feel great right now. But there's a couple builds out there that are just like, if they're in one of your BGs, it's like, it's going to wreck the whole BG. But overall, like, things feel great. Things feel really good. I really like the feel of them. But it's like, if you get one of those builds, it's just like, it's almost like game breaking. That it's like, you just feel like there's absolutely nothing you can do against them.
I totally agree. Overall, I feel like BGs feel better than they have in a really long time. I am really, really liking how things are feeling right now. But just as you said, there are a couple of builds that are just like, there's no counter to that. Like
you could do.
Like I came across this Stam Warden just yesterday. I wrote it down on our outline here because I wanted to talk about it because it was blowing my mind so much. This dude was eating my lunch every single solitary time. And the only counter was just to not be in line of sight of that guy.
Just run away.
Yeah. Even running away, like if he can see me, I'm probably dead. Like, so... Let me just describe what he was doing here. I actually whispered him. I was nice. I just wanted to know what his build was, and he talked to me, and it was a nice conversation. So the gear he's using was Ashen Grip, Way of Fire, the Vatishran two-hander, and then what he was doing is he's a warden, so he casts Sub-Assault, and then he uses the Silver Shards, the the Fighter's Guild ability, the Chain Pull-In ability. So we'll cast Sub-Assault, pull me in with Silver Shards, and then he charges up a heavy attack while my character, that animation of me getting pulled to him, that takes a second for that animation to happen, and by the time I get there, that heavy attack is fully charged and is landing right then. So that means the Vatishran, Ashen Grip, and Way of Fire, all 3, plus the heavy attack, hit me at the same time, plus Sub-Assault procs at that time as well. and then he follows it up with a Dawnbreaker. And if you know how to heavy attack weave well, it's like instantaneous, right? Like the heavy attack and the Dawnbreaker, it's like ba-bum. It's like that fast. So you're taking it all in an instant. And it was just seriously a single global cooldown and I'm dead. There's no opportunity for counter.
There's no way to pull it. There's nothing you could do against that. No heal, no nothing.
Yeah, there's no, because normally I would take a hit and then, break free and roll dodge to avoid taking the second hit, but there's no second hit necessary. The first hit kills me, Gosh. And it was every single time, like every time that dude saw me, it was guaranteed death. So I just learned to spot that guy and stay out of his like range of vision and just pick off his buddies. And it ended up being an okay match for me. I did fairly well, but man, that was just, don't mess with that guy. And it was triggering me a little bit.
Sounds awful. Just awful.
And you even mentioned, so he was wearing one of these sets that you had been mentioning to me. You're saying, man, this Way of Fire set is everywhere right now. I tried to do some research and look into it. I don't remember exactly when this set actually changed. It had to be sometime recently. I know it was recently because they were kind of changing the chance procs into just guaranteed procs. I think it was around this time last year when they were like doing a bunch of proc set reworks.
Yeah, but this is one that for whatever reason, even with this patch, it's just I feel like it's everywhere. Every time, because I've done the same thing. I've run across some of these, how we've kind of described, some of these builds that it's just like, there's nothing anybody can do to that person. And so I've whispered a couple of these people, and it's like, do you mind, like, what build you run? And it's just, it's every time I feel like it starts out with Way of Fire and then, XYZ. And I just feel like this set just came out of nowhere. And it used to be like, it was like a 10 or 20% chance to proc extra damage whenever you deal damage with a weapon. And now it is just straight, when you deal damage with a weapon, you deal an additional 3945 flame damage with a 2-second cooldown. So it's just constant.
That's a lot of burst. Like basically 4,000 extra burst with essentially every other light attack weave, or anytime you hit anyone with a weapon ability of any kind every 2 seconds on top of whatever else you're throwing at them. It's a very popular set. I would kind of be interested in trying this with Poisonous Serpent, which I use on my StamCro, which does a similar amount of poison damage based on your light attacks. So both of those would get procced off of your light attacks, and you would just basically be a light attack build. And that could be fun.
Yeah, I've seen some Stam Sorks run this build, and it's just been oppressive.
Oh yeah,
in some battlegrounds.
Yeah, if anyone didn't know, Stam Sorks still amazing. Don't worry,
still fantastic.
They ruled last patch. They were the kings of last patch, in my opinion, and I don't think they've come down a peg at all. I think they're still doing really good.
I do not think it's changed.
But overall, like we were just saying, I do really like the way balance feels right now in Battlegrounds. Damage is way, way up, but it's different though. Like, I feel like on one hand, I do die faster. Like if somebody gets a hold of me and lays a full combo into me, I die faster than I did before. But I have an easier time in general just in the battleground because that damage, most of the damage I'm taking is specifically directed at me. It's not just passive in the environment that I'm having to deal with, even though my enemies aren't even aware that I'm there. A lot of those tactics either aren't as successful as they used to be, or I think really what's happening is, since stat-based builds are so much better now, so much more viable than they have been, like the good players are saying, sweet, I'm going to run those kind of builds then. And we're just seeing less of these proc sets, less of this passive just stuff flying around. Some people are using those kinds of builds, and they are out there, and some matches are volatile like that. But I feel like generally, overall, the feel is a lot more comfortable. And if someone does focus me and lay into me, put a lot of damage into me, I can break free and recover and heal up without having to deal with 17 things on the ground that are also melting me down.
So true.
So it's really nice. And this kind of meta, I mean, it's a meta where actions per minute wins. You know, like if you can be fast, if you can avoid taking damage, and if you can lay a lot of damage into someone in a very short amount of time, that's the strategy right now, or at least for a lot of people it is. And the thing is, that's my comfort zone. That's where I live. You know, that's every patch. That's what I'm doing. So I'm actually having a really, really good time in this patch. I feel very, very comfortable and at home with how things are right now. It's awesome. I've been playing with my main character, Betsy, my stamina Templar. Pretty much, I don't know, I would say like 90% of my BG playtime has been with her. Which, as expected, I kind of predicted going into this patch that this was going to be a really, really good patch for old Betsy, and that has definitely proven to be the case. Super duper pleased with her. So I'll talk about her a little bit. I've only made some very minor changes, but a quick reminder of the build. It's still just Bone Pirate, 5 pieces Bone Pirate, 5 pieces Deadly Strikes with a 2-hander on the front bar, Master Bow on the back bar, 1 piece Molag Kenna or Bloodspawn. I go back and forth, and then Ring of the Wild Hunt. So some changes that I'm making this patch. I was using a 2-handed sharpened maul. Now I'm using a 2-handed sword. Sharpened for now because I still have to do my Nirnhoned research because I'm lazy, and I've been playing this game for 5 years and I still don't have all my research done. But, you know, only 2 weeks. I only have 2 weeks left, and then I'm going to have Nirnhoned, and it's going to be a Nirnhoned Greatsword. Main reason there is because Greatswords give us weapon and spell damage now, rather than just increasing our damage done. So that's more stats on my stat sheet. I love seeing that helps out my heals. Plus the fact that we just have so much more weapon damage this patch, it makes sense to just keep stacking that as high as I possibly can. So that's what I'm doing there. I adjusted my attribute points a little bit, so now I have 26k stamina and health, which I will say I do recommend trying to hit 30k for most players. I'll tell you, in our Battlegrounds guild, Adastra, people straight up say, "Oh, I just target anyone who has less than 30k health."
Yeah,
like that's just what they're looking out for.
They're just headhunting at that point.
So if you have 30k, if you have less than 30k health, if your HP starts with the number 2, you're there's a giant target on your back. So I'm used to it. Like my playstyle, I've always played super squishy builds, and I think I can make it work most of the time. But like I said, that Stam Warden was eating my lunch the other day, and if I'd had 30k health, it probably would have been a little bit different. But anyway, 26 works for me. And then I've been, I was saying that 1 piece Bloodspawn and 1 piece Molag Kenna, they kind of compete for that spot. Last patch, it was just Molag Kenna the whole time because we had insane amounts of sustain that patch. So it was just like no need for Bloodspawn. This patch, I've been leaning more on the 1 piece Bloodspawn. It gives you just a line of stamina recovery because we lost a little bit of recovery this patch. Betsy just chugs stamina like nobody's business. She uses a lot of stamina. And I could feel that sustained nerf just a little bit. So I switched over to Bloodspawn. She still has 6,000 weapon damage, plus the Master Bow, plus Deadly Strikes. So I'm not worried about it. She hits super duper hard. And man, I honestly don't think she's ever felt so good as she does right now. Like she's singing. It's great.
Just, yeah. I feel like if we're talking about Betsy, we got to talk about her new partner in crime. Which is my StamPlar, which...
Yes. Let's talk about it.
The character that Ken is most excited about is... And first of all, I got to just talk about the name change, because I made a name change for my StamPlar. It just came to me. Super pumped about it. My StamPlar's name is now The Need for Mead. Just Need for Mead. Need for Mead.
This dude, man, you're so great at coming up with these clever... they're like Nord specific names, they're like Nord centric, and they also fit the theme of your build at the same time.
That's what it's all about. It's
really great.
Yeah, so just real quick, I'll do an overview. It's 5 piece Deadly Strike, and then I do 5 pieces of that new Dagon's Dominion, and then a Master Bow in the back bar, and then a Ring of the Wild Hunt. So these two... Betsy and the Need for Mead, these two are like a. we did some battlegrounds together, and I described it as like they're like a strike team. They're
so
moving
great
everywhere, super quick. They're in and out. It's pretty fun.
It's fantastic. Well, so anytime you play with your StamPlar, or anytime you start talking about like, I kind of want to like make some changes to this build. I'm not sure what I should do, and I'm sitting there, and I think I've even said to you before, like. It's hard for me to even talk about StamPlar builds because all I want to say is like, why don't you just do what I do? Like I have the best StamPlar build, so just do that,
Why don't you just do what Betsy is? It's right here in front of you.
Just make Betsy. Like anytime you ask my advice, I'm like, oh well, maybe you should put a master bow in the back bar, or maybe you should,
just slowly just turn into Betsy.
And so now it is like a very similar build to Betsy. Like they're not exactly the same, but they're close enough. They're both Ring of the Wild Hunt, and both have a master bow, both medium armor builds with a lot of damage. Yep. And dude, it is so much fun us running together. It's kind of like running dual StamSorks, but I like it better than the StamSorks.
I do have to have a disclaimer that this is obviously not a usual Davius build with the medium armor, kind of roly-poly. So there's been a little bit of a learning curve for me.
You tend to go for slower, tankier builds. That's more your comfort zone.
Yeah, and so it's been a little bit of a learning curve for me. So my death totals are a little higher than I'd like them to be, but I'm really excited to get better with this and really just for these two combo together. It is.
They're so fun because we're both just so fast. And if we get on somebody like with both of our jabs going off with someone, no one's surviving that. It is just like evaporation. Yeah, I'm so pumped that you finally just kind of made a Betsy.
I finally come around. Betsy has a true partner in crime. She has a character that can keep up with her. Yeah,
that's the thing. Because like we always like that is the thing. Whenever we pair up and I play with Betsy, most of your characters are so much slower. They're good. I mean, we make a great team, but I'm always having to just kind of run circles around you while I'm like, come on, let's get to the fight. So I like running these two together because we're just right there side by side. We could just, we can strategize and it's so much fun.
It is really good. And I think it's funny how these two characters, every battleground we do, we'll try to strategize and get things together, but it really is with these, I don't know if it's the similarity or just the way they play, but with the ones that we've done, the BGs that we've done with these two, we really have like reached a new level of strategy. I feel like that we are like gotten just a whole new heightened of like in, out, like back up, we're out, and they're like jump in the fight, back in, back out.
Yeah, well, and we're super aware of the fact that these builds are really squishy, and so like we definitely like toe the line of the perimeter of the fight. We pick our targets carefully, and I like playing like that though. Like that's my very favorite way to play. I don't like just having a lot of resistance and heals and just smashing your skulls together over and over again until somebody runs out of stamina. I do not enjoy that kind of play style. I like kind of being evasive and picking my targets and taking them out quickly and almost like a ganker, but I don't like using stealth,
Yeah, I get that.
The other builds I've been spending some time with, it's really the same ones I've been playing with for the last couple of patches. My two healers, my Magicka Necromancer, Despair, and my Magicka Warden, Lola. Last patch I talked a lot about these two, and especially Despair, the MagCro. That's by far my strongest support build that I have. And going into this patch, my sort of hopeful prediction was that Despair and Lola, my MagDen, would kind of swap, and that Lola would then be my better support build because of all these stat changes and everything. Because the difference between these two, right, is Lola has way stronger heals, but Despair has all this crowd control and like enemy suppression techniques, and that's what makes her better. So I don't know. I was thinking this patch that Lola's heals were going to be so much more stronger that would make her ascend, right? Mm-hmm. I've found that not to be the case. Even though like her healing tooltips are insane. Like with no CP, Radiating Regen has like a 24k tooltip. Like the healing numbers are off the charts, but if I'm queuing up, especially if I'm queuing up solo and I don't have someone on comms to coordinate with, it's not enough, man. Damage is so high right now that I can't. There's no way I can out heal it if someone is like if a good player is focusing me down. Like the only times I've had good success with my MagDen healer is when I'm like with you on comms, or if I'm just happen to be on a team that's good and they have good damage and they can kind of keep people off of me. But if I'm just trying to run around solo and have a good time no matter what the match is, it's still my magic and necromancer that fits the bill for that. I've never had a bad match with that build, even though her heals are like half as strong. It's just all that crowd control, all that AoE damage, plus the pretty decent heals. Like I think one of the things I was thinking too is these new heavy armor bonuses, like getting that damage mitigation whenever you break CC.
Yeah.
But they kind of nerfed that over the course of PTS. It ended up not being nearly as strong of a passive as we thought it was going to be. So there's still not much of a disincentive to just toss CC everywhere. It still works really, really well. So I am a little bit bummed. I mean, I love my MagCro, don't get me wrong, but I was really hoping my MagDen, it was going to be her time. And I guess it still can be. It just depends. It's kind of like your healer, your MagPlar healer is kind of similar, right? Like you really have to have a good team, and then your build's amazing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and speaking of my MagPlar, that's my main Davis. The massive heals that this new patch have hit, he's felt pretty good. I haven't played with him a whole lot, obviously, because I tested the solo queue with him, but it was mainly just, I felt like it was just me chasing teammates. He's the one that he deals 0 damage. He only could heal. And so I tested the waters a little bit, and I was like, this is just a bad idea. It's just I can pick a teammate and just throw crazy heals at them. But he's actually felt really good. I haven't played with him a whole lot, but I've joked with you that he has yet to die this patch in a BG, which is pretty hilarious.
I think that would be awesome if you could go the whole patch without dying. That would be great.
There's no way. Any listener out there is like, okay, Davis, that's all right. That's who we're going to focus if we see him in a BG. His heals are just insane. And his biggest secret to not dying is that heals are so much stronger right now, but he gets that ultimate so fast that I really feel like I have the Resto staff ultimate on just on rotation, just kind of constantly have it going. Because
you have that Pearls mythic item.
Pearls of El Nofé. Yep. And so he's just constantly, and I finally got the Maelstrom Arena Resto staff. And so I finally threw that on Davius, and so it's just more sustain. And so he can just constantly keep things going. So he actually feels really good right now, but exactly like you just said, he has to have the right team, or he's really almost a negative to the team, because he will keep teammates alive. If they can deal damage, it's going to go really well. But if he's on a team that doesn't have enough damage, then he's only going to hurt that team even more by doing 0 damage. So
yeah, that's kind of how my MagDen is, and which she does have some firepower, but I don't think it's enough to really be like a big thing. The few times that I end up on a decent team, or like whenever like I run around with like along with your Stamina Dragon Knight who does a lot of damage, we have a good time together. But that I was kind of wanting her to be like my solo champion this patch, and I don't think that's going to be the case at all. I think it's still going to be Betsy if I want to get kills, or Despair if I want my team to win. Basically.
Yep. Still a little too much damage out there. And speaking of, you talked about my StamDK, old Lord of Nords.
Yeah.
But kind of the same thing, different side of the coin, but with Lola, I was kind of really wanting him to kind of be my solo champion, with all these stat buffs. He's very much, a stat-based character, and so I was really excited. And first of all, I will say he's probably my best feeling character right now, but, we talked in the last patch that StamDKs right now, or at least this type of build on a StamDK, they get about as many kills as they do deaths. It's kind of like a trade-off 1-for-1.
Yeah.
And I was really hoping with these stat buffs that he would feel a lot better and kind of be that solo champion you talked about. And I've really tested the waters kind of with him and the solo queue and things like that. and it's a little better, but even with him being my best feeling character right now, he's only my best feeling character if I'm running with support. So like when me and you are running together and you have, Despair or Lola, either one of your support builds, he feels fantastic and I love the way he feels. But if I'm on a team that doesn't have support, he just can't. It doesn't even he's an ulti-gen build, so he's leaping all over the place, but there's just he's just too slow on getting to players. And I've made adjustments to make it feel better, and I think that goes into why I think he's my best feeling character right now. With these stat buffs, I actually run Race Against Time on his back bar now, which is kind of wild on a StamDK. But it works and it feels great. But he just struggles too much that he's just kind of this sitting duck. If I don't have somebody kind of throwing heals at me, that I can take one character out, but as soon as I turn around, the other people hitting me are usually going to take me out before I can recover from it without a support in the group.
I have a similar issue. I have two StamDKs, and one of them is actually a very similar type of build to the one you're talking about here, and I have the exact same issue. Like, she hits hard, but it's so rare that I can actually land my entire combo on somebody with that build. And I built her to be tanky, but it's just hard to be tanky this patch. She doesn't feel tanky at all. Yep. I just and it's kind of like you with your new StamPlar build. I'm not used to playing slow tanky builds. It's not something I'm good at. So I keep wanting to kind of evade and do that sort of thing because that's my natural kind of thing. And she can't do that. That build can't do that at all. But my other StamDK, who's just a super cancerous proc build, she's doing great. She's doing really, really great.
She's fantastic still. Still fantastic. That's a fun one to pair up with Davius, because Davius will just throw heals and then she just mows people down.
Although I didn't write this down to talk about today, but I have been playing with her a little bit. She, with these changes, with these increased stats, she actually works a little bit better as a solo build now than she did before. I mean, she's still totally going to benefit from having a healer because she's not made for playing solo, but she does a lot better than she did before. Like she gets probably on average like maybe like a 5-to-1 kill death ratio as a solo on a solo queue. Just because the damage is so immense, like that's her defense, is just killing people faster than they can kill her, and it works. It works a lot of the time.
So that's funny you say that because so my stamina warden Bearclaw, Bearclaw the Nord, I should say. But he's kind of my for fun proc build. He's kind of a pet warden build, and it's kind of like what you said. I expected him to be much worse, and not that he's more of a fun build than what I would say is a really good build. But I expected him to be even worse with kind of these stat buffs. But they've actually kind of made him feel a little bit better, because before his weapon damage always seemed a little bit low, and he's summoning all these pets and causing all this chaos, which is great, and it works out really well when paired in the right team. But he just felt like he wasn't quite hitting hard enough, and his sustain was a little bit low. And so I've been able, with these new stat builds, I've been able to move things around a little bit, and he actually feels a little bit better. He doesn't do the just a whole lot of damage, but he seems a lot more survivable now, which is great feeling on him.
What else did you have? Did you have any other builds you want to talk about?
No, I mean, I will say I still haven't found my favorite build for the solo queue. We have great pairings, but when we're just kind of either one of us isn't on or something like that, I've been doing the solo queue a little bit more often, and I haven't found any of my characters that I'm just loving the solo queue.
Spend some more time with that StamPlar.
So I'm still searching.
That's what I would say. Spend a little more time. Get a little better with that StamPlar.
That's what it is.
Because I'm telling you, my StamPlar, which is a very similar build, is having a great time in that solo queue.
Yeah, I think, and we talked about this, but I think I need to make some slight adjustments on sustain, and I think it'll feel.
I think we did talk about that the other night, and I was saying that, and just like I was saying earlier, like Betsy chugs the stamina,
yes.
So that play style really does go through that stamina bar big time. I think her unbuffed stamina recovery is right at 2,000, and it gets up to like 2,400 when she's fully buffed. Plus, she has repentance.
Yep.
All right, well, that's the BGs. That's the builds that we've been playing with so far. It's going to be hard to tear myself away from the StamPlar this patch, I think. She feels so good. Like, anytime I think of any other builds, I'm just like, I don't want to play with those.
You really do. As we're like, all right, which build are we going to play with? You're like, well, we could do these. And then you always come back, well, or I could just hop on with Betsy.
Yeah, well, it's her time. And like last patch, she wasn't necessarily my best build. And so I wasn't playing with her as much as I do other patches. But I really do think she's actually my best build now. And so I'm going to be back to maining her this patch. I'm really happy about that because she is my favorite character after all. Emails and shout outs. We have no emails and no shout outs. But if you would like to email us, you can email us at scrolling.
Double check the shout outs real quick. Are you sure? No shout outs. Did we do a quick review?
Shout out to GrizzlyCon for posting the wrong skill in the Discord chat yesterday. No, you know what? Shout out to GrizzlyCon just because. GrizzlyCon, you've been here since the beginning, man, and I appreciate it.
Yep. That's a good shout out. There you go. See?
We do have a guild still. It's called Stoon's Goons, and you don't want to be a part of this thing. Just forget it.
We've come full circle on this thing where it's like in the beginning we're like, man, you guys should join us. Now we're like, good Lord, guys, we're just a bunch of kind of crazy.
It's real
people,
bad.
So
no. We do have a guild called Stoon's Goons. It's a very casual kind of just social guild. We tend to have a bit of a PvP focus just because that's what Davius and I spend most of our time doing, but we really do kind of whatever. Wherever the wind takes us, we do dungeon runs, we do quests, we do crafting, all that sort of stuff. Even a little bit of role playing. We have Thursday nights are role play nights. Davius is the Argonian handmaid, and
see, everybody already knows you're not being serious because you had Davius and Argonian in the same sentence.
You're you're logged in with a Nord, but the Nord is role playing as a.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm following now. There we go. It's a very in depth, different layers.
So
it's an onion.
Yeah, it's just like an onion. If you like this kind of banter here, Stoon's Goons is for you.
Come be a goon with us.
Like I said, you can expect to see or to hear more frequent episodes going forward. I doubt we have one next week, but there's a good chance that there will be one the week after that. And in general, there's going to be more consistency. My life is kind of settling back down in a very good way. I'm very happy with how things are turning out. I've been playing a ton of ESO, and anytime I'm playing a lot of ESO, I can't help but talk about it, so there's going to be episodes coming. Anything else to add, Davius?
I don't think so.
All right, we're going to get out of here. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Me needing to recover from my beatdown that I took right before. I'll blame it on I got my first vaccine shot today, and so my arms are really sore. So I'll blame it on that.
Yeah,
that's what it was. Otherwise, I would have taken dots and Kapakinde down all the way.
Unexpected side effect makes you suck at BGs.
Yeah, that's right. Put that out there, please.